moment of um, recognition of what this is happening. And it's all we're offering is uh, guidance as a response to that. And that's usually so what I like to do is I like to I want everybody to introduce yourself. And share from your heart about how you see this moment in your so we can for research. I was a mental health person in further. And so already there, I'm hearing and experiences to unstable anxiety and uncertainty that having system. Uh, really in the country that this is a pressure, but it's a point in terms of what we're getting in the country of as individuals and as society and it seems that this is a significant moment in history regarding that. We've done this before we made a choice and we're back again to look at it in a different way. Uh, and I would hope that it would be a clear difference and that connected. So, so my hope has been that you are getting momentum on radar, even though you're not getting all the publicity that you should be getting from major news stations and such, but certainly been pushing your ass off everywhere. Let me ask you a question. I said, this is a good question, my God. Yeah. I think I'm going to and so forth. Um, you said that people are here, you put it out and said that people are here in the inside. What is your impression of how people are processing this moment and how they see, how they see the fact that how they see the fact that you actually could vote for the moment? I'm not so, I feel as though there's a level of awareness that people will come and look at all of the candidates, but a candidate who looks different and doing something different and supposed to basically what's like resistance to that. Why? Okay, talk to me about that. Why is that resistance there? Well, I think that personally they were not good for listening to the that. Um, so it really is. I think it's more of a reflection of the city where people are at, like whether they want to start on themselves, political agenda, and they have to reflect of that. So younger people, I see a lot more willingness to look at their community and new people entering the community to be much more willing to go there and supportive of that. My organization is rather kick back. I don't know, I still don't know, but it seems like there's a little bit more and the complicated relationship with DNC. Because like the DNC says, it is going to be so. This is what they said in 2016. This is the same playbook in 2016. And it gave us, and if we follow that same playbook now, so that's what I mean, like, it's like a do again. Like, here we are again. So make a break for it right now, not 7 days. Introduce yourself and tell us yourself.
Yeah, my name is Marianne. Uh, my thoughts are, uh, at least, yeah, so, very, very, I should say somewhat similar. After having been here in 2015, after being here in 2020, and having the opportunity to run with you a bit there, and beginning to understand um, not just your wisdom, your ability. Uh, but beginning to understand that sort of illusion that you received from the Democratic Party is it's, it's, uh, it's very frustrating. Um, when I find myself, uh, where I find myself is in 2020 and here now, I was at your event last night, that when I hear you speak, I feel like I would run through a brick wall to support you. I feel like I want to bring my son. I mean, and my granddaughter too. And I just I know that by muffling this, there's not any good that's coming from it. We're reducing our opportunity here. And I say it's frustrating because I feel as though, and I know some of the Democratic folks that could make something different happen. I know that they're basically good people, but somehow they're missing.
So let me ask you a question, and also, Cindy, you know, because that's how you could do something to participate, just to be here with us in our circle. No, that was the phone, before, because this is deep and real, and this is. Let me ask you a question. I didn't care about that. What I care about is the system. You want to come in? Yeah, I'm in this. This emanates from people. Okay, this is my first attempt. My first is that when people do, we're golden. But it's almost a different, so when you say you know some people who could make it different, that will come good.
What I was actually thinking about with people that are in Congress, those people, I feel as though the level of the source of the exclusion is not just individuals. I think and we know it's more at a party at a higher level. Well, you know, I said, I don't want this, I don't want this to be,
Feel you on that, though.
You know, I participate. I'm a Buddhist, and I've been practicing for 35 years. So our movement, SCI, World Peace Movement, Nichiren Buddhism. So I think that we are kind of really sensing that the issue here is not as much political as it is moral. Well, that's what you know. It's you know, Dr. King's birthday was yesterday, but I sort of remember hearing him saying something about morally bankrupt. I don't know if that was if it was him, but somehow I remember that those two words together. And I think this because of my Buddhist practice, and I know that your source of healing and your Course in Miracles, but you're really coming from a point of it's not just the economic. And we talked about it a bit. You talked about it a bit last night. It's not just our guns, the volume of our guns. Other countries have the volume of the guns that we have, but there's something that's going on with our, uh, with our spirit and with our soul about our humanity with other people. And with in our practice, that's what we're struggling to do, is to sort of make a difference one person at a time.
You know, I was on an IG Live earlier that it was talking about women in law. It's one of this idea of psychological something in law. I was talking about this the, codependent relationship with the DNC. It's just, we're just like, we're living to the sea. We're just letting ourselves walk towards the cliff. It's unbelievable. And we were talking about how many times I say you talk to a friend who's in a toxic relationship because that people need to just walk away. Just walk away. Walk away. Because the people who are walking towards it, it was interesting last night. You were there last night. Because the woman who was saying, I agree with everything you're saying, but they've decided, she would not her words, they've decided is that we need to go with Joe. The room was not agreeing with her. The room was not agreeing with her. So I really, I don't think it's that people aren't disturbed. But I wonder if there's something about me and the way I'm presenting I know there's nothing wrong with the way I'm presenting myself in terms of when I'm in front of an audience, because they're getting it. But there's something, it seems to me, it's too outside the box. I, I think anytime somebody gets into like a well-established system that is dependent on the corruption, keep it going. If somebody's stepping into that many kinds of sites and gets close enough to it and starts speaking enough to it loudly, then yes, I think in my experience with some work I've done, the resistance gets louder, and the wanting to keep you quiet gets stronger, and the minimizing of what you're doing is more of a priority. And that's kind of what it feels like to me. And there's an almost unconscious fear. With my hearing aid, noise in the background is really tough. They've made me on some level radioactive, and people are afraid that if I say I support her, that the mockery of her will be projected on her. Well, it is what it is. Do you have any thoughts? I'm being and I have been following February 2019 when it first met. When I first heard that he was supporting the radio interview was done on February 14th. And I said, I have gotten, so that's why I was at the hospital. And in 2019, I was seeing the pushback when I was held with people on the American Democratic Party committee that I was supporting you. I did get pushback. I resigned from the committee and I changed my affiliation. I declared I am not seeing that same system from some of those same people. What did they say? They just, I actually got a private message from one of them who had been attending one of your events that was, you personally were not there, but she said she was very proud of it. And I haven't asked her what she meant through Messenger, but that was huge because 4 years ago she had a whole different opinion. So I was very, very grateful to have that message from her. She is, I don't want to give it away, but she's a person in power. Mm-hmm. So coming, like I said, coming from her. But to get back to the other general question, people resist change, and as what we should be afraid of at this point are just we should be afraid of nothing, right? And I've never been fearful. I've always been sort of the entrepreneurial spirit. Quit the job when you don't have another one, and just sort of jump in and make it work. Not everyone has that ability. They want the structure. They want sometimes to be taken care of. And that's an awful lot of society from my point of view. But I'm also seeing a lot of shifts, especially in my young. Yeah, I mean, you felt it really last night. Yeah, a lot of young people that I've spoken with really exciting. That, and they're playing, so we're going to get your question, there are lots, like you told us, I mean, there are a lot of people who are coming to you, they're money to, because so much is online now. I mean, you have a whole generation that lives online.
People go out less. People go out less, period. It's kind of a tragedy.
I know what I mean.
Right.
I do think that's.
Or see them on my YouTube or something, right?
Yeah, or you
Right.
do, right. And it's a whole different feeling from 2019. Absolutely. So very encouraging to me. Really? Well, I know that day that we were in Williamson, I think we were, and we were going into stores and, all the kind of. Yeah, we did. I wasn't very correct idea. I mean, people, when I would have the card, oh, you're Marianne Williamson. I mean, there was a lot of that. And a lot of, yeah. Yeah, it's just, you know, one of the things that I see here that I saw last time and I saw in early conversations, people are realizing first time makes that I do feel. I don't feel that there's this like cluelessness about the fact that it's happening. But I agree with you, it's not easy to go. You know, it would be different if Gavin Newsom was running. It would be different if someone's still within the box.
Not as courageous as you.
Pardon?
Not as courageous as you. You know, I think in today's day and age gets points.
I think it does say something about how the system works. That people who, you know, and I feel that way about Dean Phillips too. She torpedoed his career, but he's willing to do this because we're all like, what are we doing? And this is not some little threat that is confronting us. And the fact that there's not even a robust democratic debate. What are your thoughts? Anything you want to share, John?
Yeah. I have a few thoughts, definitely. I'm certainly a fan of yours. I certainly actually see you get momentum because the mainstream look at the debate in News Nation, look at all the positive press, look at you getting millions of followers, millions of fans on TikTok. And I admire your independence. And I have a YouTube and I've gone out to kind of film the candidates and really try to broadcast what their message is. You know, I think that's most important. I used to be a local TV news reporter, and interestingly enough, got fired for speaking the truth about Scientology. And then the church, if you know them, the church went after me, threatened. And they threatened to sue. So I got fired, and then I got some decent press and was able to get good YouTube base going on all the anti-Scientology YouTube sites. Was able to get monetized. But I figured, well, that's what I want to do. I want to try to break through that white noise and speak some truth to power. And I think with the momentum that you're getting online, I think even now compared to 4 years ago, there's just a lot. Your voting base is the younger voting base, and they more live online and go out less than ever before. So I think it's this sleeper base that you have that's going to become really a groundswell for you on the day of. If Biden's only getting 60%, I think you by far have gotten more press, or at least amongst young people, and visibility, even than Dean Phillips. So, you know, Biden gets 60, you get 40, 35, then it's a race, or even win. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I can see it. You always want to be realistic, sure, but you know, you have a base that is sleeping.
That's realistic. I'm thrilled. I just sort of something like getting 3 people in a library.
But that's every candidate. Every candidate. I've been to every candidate's things. There's always a day where they, you know, have 10 people. It's everybody. It's not unique.
A lot of the young ones, though, first of all, when you say a lot of the young ones, they don't come out, but are they going to come out and vote? They can't vote online.
Right. Well, it's one day, you know, so probably.
We'll see if they do.
Yeah.
And,
That's why I'm here, is promoting that message and having people be aware of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are promoting that message. So are we going to what it is?
Yeah, let's do it.
Throughout here for the last 50 years, there has been a war on the on the floor. In the 1970s, the African Americans could afford a couple could afford it, and could afford college, and could afford a yearly vacation, and one salary to support a family of four, and that couple could afford to send their kids to college. And there were tuition-free college situations until the 1970s, University of Texas, University of California, and University of Florida. And that was called a sliding middle class. And that's what I was raised with. And most of our kids, right, was a sliding middle class. Over the last 50 years, and I think we should all be very aware, this was strategized. This didn't just happen out of nowhere. There's a book by Nancy McLean called Democracy and Change. And it talks about an economist named Buchanan. And he wrote a theory, and ultimately got the Nobel Prize in Economics. And I don't know if he got it for this, but this is pretty awesome. And he talks about the primacy of property rights and how the only way we could ensure the primacy of property rights is if we put democracy in change. Now, let's remember, that's what slavery was. The primacy of property rights. This is my property. Don't talk to me human rights. This is my property. And that is the malevolence. That thought that property is more important than people, right? So we've never been totally without the spawn of that perspective. So what happens when he wrote this? That in order, so think what he's saying. In order to ensure the primacy of property rights, we have to put democracy in change. Why? Because if democracy is not in change, people don't stand up for that. People don't stand up for slavery. People don't stand up for official oppression of women. People don't stand up for the Gilded Age. People don't stand up for civil rights. All those movements were people saying, no, your property, women are not your property, black people are not your property, you don't get all the properties of the Gilded Age. Democracy burst through that. And, I love, I think it was last year, the line from Lincoln where he said that the Declaration of Independence is an eternal rebuke against all forms of tyranny and oppression. Because you can't say all men are created equal, endowed with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and put property rights first. And it says in the Declaration that the role of governments are instituted to secure those rights, not to secure property rights. Well, this book goes into what happened. The Koch brothers read Buchanan's book. And the Koch brothers, and remember, the Koch brothers are the ones who are even today, well, one of them has died, the Koch brothers, the Koch Foundation, is the one who gave $10 million to Nikki Haley. By the way, I want to point out something else. This has been a $175 million raise in Iowa. So the best Ramaswamy, for instance, is a very wealthy man. It all came to naught yesterday. So it's not all about money. Right? So I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, so the Koch brothers said, oh, and they started funding. I mean, this was all strategized. If you read Sheldon Whitehouse's book about the Supreme Court, how they had this plan, how they were going to take over the Supreme Court before the forces and so forth. So we ended up with a situation in which it basically privatized everything, because private money, private power, private control is about the accumulation of wealth. The public good, but the first principle of the United States that is supposed to be operative here is that it is the government's role to broker the balance between private opportunity, liberty, which includes economic liberty. Yeah, you can start that faster if you want to, good on you. But the government's to balance economic liberty, any liberty, personal, individual liberty, with a concern for the common good. So the way it's supposed to work is your individual liberty means you can start that factory. Concern for the common good means no, you cannot spew carcinogens into the river. But we've become so imbalanced in the direction of the protection of private property and privatization. Everything's become about privatization. And as it becomes more and more about privatization, so how do you make it about privatization? You deregulate it. I mean, how society concerns, provide for the common good. Providing for the common good means environmental regulation. Providing for the common good means safety regulation. Providing for the common good means more money for things like healthcare and education. Providing for the common good, that means recognizing the importance of the public domain, which by definition means things you don't have to pay for, and which most people might not be able to pay for, but which create a thriving society. So I read this book called Democracy Don't Stop, the Gardens of Democracy. And it used this really powerful image. It said that what's happening now is like if all the blood in the body went to one arm. Blood has to circulate. Opportunity has to circulate. Money has to circulate. The problem in America is not that some people get to get rich, but not enough people even get to get beyond what they feel they have to do just to make it. You can't, that's a collapse of the middle class. You can't have a thriving democracy when you don't have a thriving middle class. So, it's easy to look at Donald Trump and see the threat that he poses to democracy. And he does. I'm not saying he doesn't. But this economic paradigm of trickle-down economics also poses a threat to democracy. Because it ensures that policy after policy will make it easier for the stockholder class to do well, but at the expense of everyone else. This is why if you turn on mainstream television today, they'll just tell you how well the economy is doing. Because if you're at Wall Street,
Well, for them, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's doing very well for them. But 39% of Americans are now say they regularly skip their meals in order to pay the rent. Someone we know is around the campaign. You might have been saying it when I was talking about she eats dinner. And I don't know if you remember. And she said she eats dinner, and I said, she don't eat lunch. She said, yeah, I just eat one meal a day. And she said, I originally did it because I couldn't afford it to do otherwise. Now I like it. And I thought, I don't think I ever had, just someone that I'm just talking to as a friend. Right, right.
Almost conditioning.
It's normal. It's like people, how they used to do those commercials, very powerful commercials about pedophiles, where it was showing the commercial was showing a man and he was carrying a little kid away. He was just such a nice guy, holding hands with the kid. Then he turned around and his short said pedophile. And it was the point of the commercial was you wouldn't have necessarily thought it. Well, I think that's true of a lot of people we might know who are carrying more economic stress. I mean, I'm really impressed that people are holding it together as well as they are in this society today. And I think that that's what gave me in my career, people for this saying about my career, I was privy to things that are happening in people's lives. But when my career began, the things that were happening, it was like what you do, right? So when I began, it was, and I was the one who called, the test results came back, it's cancer, my child's on heroin, my husband left, someone I love died. But I felt that it was, I'm sort of a crisis expert, an emotional, spiritual crisis expert, but the crisis was the exception and not the rule. Then around the year 2000, particularly when I moved to Detroit, I met so many people, and people who I had such admiration for, I was working with this church, and people who were just have on Facebook, come to the church, and you're going to show up. And it was so heartbreaking, but it wasn't a crisis. Their life should be living either in poverty or near poverty. There's a term they use, the difference between a screaming emergency and a rolling, a silent emergency. A screaming emergency is cancer. A screaming emergency is my loved one died. A silent emergency is I'm poor. A silent emergency is I hate my job. If the only way I can get the benefits have and health care, but I need the health care because I have whatever condition I have. There's no room for me to grow on this job. There's no promotional ability. And I'm stuck. And I can't help my kids. and I can't even give any hope to my kids, because what can I tell them will be better? Their stuff in college doing that. They're coming back and living life. I mean, this is the majority of Americans on some level are constrained with the economic and visible economic trends. And the good of these does not even see it. Because the system isn't working now. It's predicated on the existence of this permanent middle class. A permanent underclass. But a permanent underclass today, it doesn't, you wouldn't necessarily know it looking at someone. You wouldn't necessarily know it. They have another speaker on, they have another game on. Or living in circumstances that make you feel hopeless and make you feel that there's no I can do it. So I don't see anything in the current economic status of the United States that promises any change. And, I saw today that there's going to be a bipartisan bill to reinstate the child tax credit to make their stuff. But still, we have to ask the question, yes, we'll cut child tax payments. And I'm very happy about it. I don't make you feel that. I talk about it. And at the same time, there should not be one child tax that it doesn't. There should not be one child. So I see it very differently than the sort of political elite, what do they call it, corporatocracy system offers us. I think we need to make a bold change. I think we need an economic program. I think we need a president who comes in and says, this is fine for everybody except the people. This is fine for the donor class. But when Abraham Lincoln stood on the field of battle at Gettysburg, he said people who died so that a government of people and private people for the people who don't. It's nourishing right now. If you have 39% of Americans who say that they regularly skip meals in order to pay them, and that's so staggering. So we hope we become president. Okay, well, we're going to have an economic mitigation. We're going to cut the cord with the chapter of neoliberal economics. Is there anyone who doesn't know neoliberal economics simply means corporate rule? And it is corporate rule. It is corporations in America today have in terms of how things actually go down, arguably have and that is economic unholy alliance between government and corporations. That is wrong. Because the undue influence of these corporate entities, they're lobbyists. They're saying, you're not supposed to deregulate. They're very polite. Probably you're a congressman, they come into your office, and congressmen who really think that, that basic regulation, it's costing us a lot of money, create more jobs, and, it's making it as hard to manufacture products. So let's say you're a congressman, well, you know what, I don't buy that because your business model really touches the country and about job elimination. And I understand what you're saying about your profits, but how the lobbyists respond? Thank you very much for reading this response. I'm really sorry. Of course, it's very disappointing about something. And that he's going to go back to the office, and there's going to be a little check next to the primary. And everybody knows it. Everybody's really polite. Primary him. We got a primary. And because of the money that is allowed into the system, because Citizens United, so much money to be spent, and that's what we get NRA work, and that's America.
Israel.
So,
Israel, I'm thinking of Jamal Bowman, for his independent stance getting primaried, and the whole establishment now is just raising millions. That's how they do it.
So at this point, they control Washington. They've turned Washington into a system of legalized primary. And The only way we can change is with the people. There's nothing else that we step in. With a revolution, it's about a revolution is about one, and nothing is a more powerful over the top in that revolution than what happened here in New Hampshire. I mean, it's that powerful what happens in New Hampshire because if Biden wins big next Tuesday, it's going to be very difficult to convince anyone that anything. But if New Hampshire says actually, so we need universal health care, tuition free college, both of which, and another thing I want to mention, the majority of Republicans as well as Democrats. So when people say, if anyone says, oh, but she's so far out, she's so far left, everything that I talk about is considered a moderate position in every other advanced democracy, and both Republicans and Democrats. Both Republicans and Democrats, interestingly enough, the majority of Republicans as well as Democrats, including John Foley, was more than a big deal. You know, in these areas, in my entire experience doing it, my sense is that the American people know problems. I mean, I consider decent people. We're not better than other people, but I really, the older I get, the more I know, the more I see the how they kind of demonstrated it's living in your no matter not all, but just represent that regardless of what you come from, regardless of what you regardless of anything, as long as you know what anything competence is, so we know the critical thought process and stuff, make it strong enough to govern the great nation. As long as we have free press, so we can inform, as long as we have free public assembly, so we can talk about it, that your decision, your decision will be over time, maybe not every time, but over time, we will get better trusting in that than trusting that thing of yourself. It's confidence that's just a brutal. So we need to pay family leave, we need some kind of health care. So it's one of the countries that works the job that other people aren't having children in order to get their job. We need guarantee affordable health care. You have 31,000, okay, 31,000 units of housing. This is in New York to get out. So we need a domestic Marshall Plan for housing. I mean, this is the stuff we need to do. We need it guaranteed living wage. Americans are hardwired for going big. We're hardwired for doing great things. And it's depressing. The spirit of America is kind of brash. We don't fix things. And Americans like being called to that. That's in our nature. And now what politics has done is just for self that. Nobody's being called to that which is noble within us. Nobody's being called to that which is deeply meaningful. And I think people like to be to this deeply. I know started project this. The AIDS crisis was really ridiculous. The AIDS crisis pretty much like COVID, perfectly. It was like COVID, it was all anybody was talking about. With COVID, it was very easy to get, but the chances were to. AIDS was the opposite. But AIDS was the opposite. When we started these nonprofits and started the support groups and started the feeding people and all of the things that we did, people would tell me all the time who were not sick, who were the volunteers, how much this is doing. Because the hope is born of participation in the community. We want to be called to something great. We want to be called to something great. People, and in politics, they're afraid that you won't vote for me if I ask you to show up for this. I think people are ready. I think people are, that's what happened with them. From down and self-medicine. And people, and that's what's happening right now with the great. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. That's what we want. And
In both parties, to sleepwalk.
I just look at it, now, no, the stuff that was in my company, they're going to say, so, we need those things. And we need a department of peace that would offer us, for more than a living mortgage. And we need a department of children and youth. And we need a national education for a living department of now, why is it that the political media got the concept is not wanted to do this? I mean, last time, tonight, Ron DeSantis in Manchester, New Hampshire, is having a stand-in film.
Rather go to yours.
And
Choose you over Ron, easy.
So you ask yourself, well, why don't they want to let me in?
It's real. Yeah. This message actually resonates with people. There's such a deep distrust in media and, government.
It was interesting because the day after I am now, I was on Jonathan Paul, which is doing the morning, and I'm on Jonathan Paul, and I think I heard what I had to say.
Mm-hmm. You're too good.
And, people who think of themselves as not what they believe in their life. So, I have, there's been a feeling of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Get off, get off, get off. And I feel that that's a microcosm for how Americans experience with money, people squash you and you just the message to go away and do as you go. Now, I look at this particular difference. It is safe. Women, black men, you're talented.
Thank you. I'd like to hope so. I'm barely making it anyway. Yeah.
I mean, if you compare this to what it was 100 years ago, way more people are living in the room.
60 years ago. 50.
So that's why. I honestly believe because this is last night, but also our dealing with stuff. We're going to have to probably
Mm-hmm.
the elite wants to think, well, we put him down in our mess. And we told him about lunatic at our day. So we're going to know what's happening. So that's what I believe is happening. I'm basically really do offer in the beginning of Goldman. And, the Kennedy used to use the word victim. You need some victims. On speed. We know that now.
Since
We know that now, but hey, that could feel good with him.
yeah.
Okay, so that's basically what we're doing. And I was here to deal with your questions, your thoughts, your ideas, your suggestions. Because we have to try to work with the I have thoughts. I really don't believe that any of this expression has anything to do with you. It's your message. I really appreciate you saying that, Jane. I was saying to Wendy yesterday, it's very difficult not to take this personal. Every morning, somebody's insulting you, condescending, putting you down.
Yeah.
Calling you, I was on some radio show here in New Hampshire yesterday, and somebody said, I'm not interested in a fortune teller. And then I know they do that to other people, but you're right, it's hard. Of course. But no, it's because your message is going to resonate, as was said. It's a matter of people hearing you. Once they hear you, they cannot unhear you, which is what happened to me. I literally did not know who you were until February 15th, 2019. And then 2 days later, I was like, I want to work on your campaign. And 2 days ago, and the she was like, the last time I think of this, the night before, when one woman said, I came here, planning to be with the writing Biden sign, and I'm.
Mm.
No,
Cool. That's cool. Wow.
It's not anything that you are doing. It's not. That's what you represent. And I think that people want to, as I said, that for long stuff living in the past because as they cut off from the businesses who they really are. And so when they basically speak and they're independent, they just sort of waking up. It's like how if more people, there could be more of that, more exposure, more than the wake up and to stay awake a little longer to make a moment. And I feel like that's what is really wanted and needed, and people are looking for that desperately. And I think that's why there's so much synchronicity, there's so much opioid issues, and so much investment in the numbing and the taping. They're wanting something more than they are. The question for me is I'm not able to choose that. I mean,
You're making a deliberate effort to silence you. I mean, the thing I like about you, one of the reasons that Trump won is because he said, challenge the whole system, make these dramatic overhauls. Let's talk about trade. Let's talk about some other issues. He didn't follow through. The other half of his message was incredibly vitriolic. But what a compelling general election message that you have when you say create a department of peace. Let's, Yemen, Israel, for the past 20 years, Iraq, all of these foreign entanglements where we could be spending that money directly in healthcare. Especially after Trump's pick of housing and urban development chair, for you to recognize housing as a human right, that is dangerously radical for the people who are holding that power. They don't want you to think in that bigger picture. Yeah, you. Right. And that's you can say you support universal basic income, but let's keep within the confines of the political conversation. You're actually talking to people on the ground who are starving, and that's why they're scared, because you're a good communicator, and that's why I'm here to get that message out despite this intended blackout, because the elite's whole way of life is going to be thrown out the window if you're president. And you're the only candidate that is really talking about that in a very specific way. And they're shaking their boots, but you're still breaking through in a big way, I think.
I don't know the reason. I don't really.
Yeah, it's so
Idiot.
You know, I don't know how or why someone like Nikki Haley. I mean,
That's
she's
interesting.
So, you know, there- we're going to have a debate. It's going to be Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Uh, you know, the whole Ron DeSantis, I mean, that's a whole story. But I don't know, I was just comparing two women. This woman is like, she's so uh, incapable compared to me. But that party, for some reason, it's like, what? Let's give her at least the air time. I don't know how. Well, I guess $10 million doesn't hurt coming from the Koch family. I didn't know that, but I think one of the problems, and I don't know the financial side of your campaign, but if you have $10 million, that's a big.
Well, that was the biggest damage of them not. Was very costly, only like half of what we had last time in the same period of time. Because I was on CNN. I had CNN on call. I was on MSNBC. I mean, so many people say, I talk to my friends, they don't even know the money.
You would have qualified for a debate against Biden if they allowed that to happen. You would have qualified for a debate against Biden if they allowed it to happen easily. So you can see this blackout they're not even doing.
Excuse me. Did you see?
Hold on.
The DNC, I remember, Simone Sanders on MSNBC one day saying, there are not going to be debates. We have our candidates.
Yep.
There are not going to be debates. And one of the things that, Jen Huber has said quite a lot, by suppressing our candidacy, they've given all the oxygen to the Republicans.
Yeah.
All the oxygen to the Republicans. Brilliant guy. What geniuses came out with that. So, like Jen has said, when we speak, we talk the Democratic line. And they said, nope, nobody's going to do that until Biden chooses to give a talk. And someone else is not. People are going to be thinking, well, when I vote for an 81-year-old, there's going to go to the possibility that the vice president will take over at some point. And what is Americans going to do? Another brilliant move on their part that they think is also that they clearly
It's a lot
not
cheaper.
learn from history. I also remember 1968.
G. McCarthy, yeah.
And I remember what happened after the convention. My house was in Chicago. Because they wanted to be part of them. I know, could get Chicago again. I'm like,
Yeah.
But, and then 2016, derailing Bernie. Quite.
You're in good company. Yeah.
He sent out an email. He sent out an email saying, how is it that we are in this position? How is it that it looks like someone with all of these indictments could possibly be the Republican nominee? How is it? He had several questions. And then he invited feedback. He said, feedback. He said, I want to hear what you said. So I said, those are all great questions, Bernie. And I have a question for you. How can you continue to support Biden when you know we need massive shift now? And his approach is more incremental. Marianne Williamson is offering a platform of humanitarian policies and hope, happily, closely aligned with yours. She publicly supported you in 2016 and 2020. Please reconsider your decision so we can bring real change to the American people. And
Beautiful.
with my full name.
Kick-ass, well written, nice.
In New Hampshire. Yeah. Article. There is a candidate who's a representative of 45. Yeah, and you know each other. I mean, yeah. Even if I was a congresswoman, that's what it makes a difference.
Well, you're getting a lot more momentum than Dean, and he is a congressman. So, I mean, I think you have much stronger social media following. You get much stronger views. You know, he's making traction too. You know, he also had an event where nobody showed up. That became a lot more famous. But yeah, I don't even like that they're talking about. I mean, I think he has a good campaign. I don't even like that they're talking about him more than you on occasion. The mainstream media, the social media is the complete opposite. The fact that I think you went on Pod Save America. How come That's a question I've never. Have you tried connecting to like Pod Save America? How come they keep like flipping you off? Okay, right in 2019, right?
Mentioned me, and said, she's just doing it for fun.
But they have Dina. It's like.
When people say I'm doing it for ego, I'm going to ask you, how do you think waking up every morning?
Yeah,
to
right.
The insult, to the bad, to the condescension, to the lie, to the smear, to the need to raise money, the need to put in my own money. How do you think this isn't good for your ego?
Right.
This is so not an ego choice. This is the most common. Like I said, I walked in here today. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to a career. I know. So here, it's free. Nobody will come. But if I was talking about personal growth and relationships and stuff, it would be full, and people would pay $50 each. So some people would say, "Isn't that a sign to stay in that career?" I understand, but for whatever reason.
Well, you've had 4 decades of helping people. It's a logical next step.
Yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
It just feels to me the natural extension. Let's do for the country what we feel is enough for us, because I think that the personal growth conversation has infused our heart enough. We have a critical mass. You were talking about being Buddhist. I'm assuming all of you, for everybody, like therapy, books. We're not at a sophomoric level anymore when it comes to our own
No.
personal growth. But
Absolutely.
the political system keeps us at a sophomoric level, which is
Marianne, can you talk a little bit about this? Because I think about it a lot, and I would love to hear your take. So I was here in '07. I remember in my house, Barack Obama, he had just won enough. And he came here like the next day.
Yeah.
At home, I was working from home. I had a BlackBerry, and I said, you know what? I heard he was coming into Peace, right in Portsmouth. I live in Portsmouth. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? I think I could go see this guy. It's in the afternoon. I wasn't going to cheat on my work. I got my BlackBerry. They called me. I'm looking at it. I'll come out. So I went over there, and it was snowing just like it is today. And we had to wait outside. Got there, and there were about 200 people that were in line. And they were all white. I may have been 3 black people there. And some of them I always say this, but I say it very respectfully, is those little white-haired old ladies. They were in line.
Apparently.
And I'm going like, wait a minute, man, something's going on here. And we finally got inside. Excitement, he comes in, rolled his sleeves up. I mean, it was an hour later, and he finally spoke. It was cold in there. But I left. 2 things hit me. Something's going on here. And they don't care if this guy's green. but something's got this place popping. And we saw what happened. The other thing was, I just said, if you do not, to myself, if you don't work here and work with this 100% and he loses, you're not going to have anyone that you can blame but yourself. And that was my connection there. But I got a chance, I knocked on doors all the way up to 7 o'clock election night. And I would knock on the door, somebody would open the door, tell me that they were good. You don't even have to worry, son. They're calling me son. These little old lady. I'm with you. We're with him. I'd have to go to the street. I'd cry and then go to the next door. So the question I wanted to ask, I know that there's this goodness and there's something in America that is there. I know it. We saw it. Now, what he did politically and the rights and the mistakes and all of that, that's aside. That role is, you're going to make a mistake if you're a leader, especially in a country. If you're a leader in a corporation, if you're a leader in a family, you're going to have certain things.
Right.
But the energy and something was popping that people were like, I'm ready for.
Right.
And that's what your message is no less relevant, sound.
In my other career, although to me it's really one, but in my career as an author, that's what the rest of us. So, and I know that when people hear me, but open the door. People saw me on those. And even though there were some elements trying to put me down,
Like that, interest.
her power to open the door was so great. I haven't had anyone tell me, like even, I don't know what. And I think it's that so people heard me. So as it is,
I think you'll surprise a lot of people.
mhm,
I think you'll surprise a lot of people. I think there's the anti-establishment message is the norm now, but you're the only candidate really talking about it and talking about this massive overhaul that's incredibly needed.
Why they're working so hard.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're working so hard to keep us quiet.
Because it's changing their way of life, it's changing the way they do business.
I feel if we have the time and we have the money, the way it works is, if we could get up to, let's say, 18%, they would have to flip over and show you. If we don't get them, they make percentage exceeds that. And which is sad, because I think that it would fit.
And it would be easier for maybe somebody that's a little bit in the shadow.
That's right.
That would be
If we
easier.
could, that's why this is going to,
Now the attention is here. So a lot of people are out to lunch until Iowa finally happens.
and I think, Gary, when you were talking about, like, how, no, it's just going, I think, things have changed in America, like going up to the houses, but even just walking down the street with those palm cards, that's really what, you just take palm cards, everybody just take palm cards and just walking up and down the
I'd
street.
be happy to.
Yeah. And, sort of just simple, not even, know, and there's like, like a tree, putting this under your feet.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, and this is a great look, and I will say it's so cool. You're so down to earth. Like, not every event is going to have a million people. The fact that you've been talking for an hour and a half with just us shows the respect, like how you'll respect America once you become president. Like, just wanting to talk to all of us, and not, and just so nice to have a candidate who doesn't kind of feel above everybody, you know. So respect for that.
The fewest people in the room, the people.
Yes, always. Yeah. Well, you got some deep moments. Yeah.
And then I was, and it's shaking the world more than 1,000.
Yep.
People. And it's a level of affecting the field of the work. I don't think it's about normal laws of kind of say, size and form.
No, there's not.
I always say, although I think I'm not sure I made improvement right here. I said to people, there are two ways of looking at it. So if you're looking at social change, if you just have to convince more people, then you're always tempted to donate it. But look at it first, tell them
Right.
who's as deeply as you can discern. And then at some point it flips over. I don't know if that's working.
I think it is.
But meanwhile, we're doing everything we can. And I really appreciate. And also, so let's close our eyes and imagine the world that we want to see. And in the world we want to see, I see a world in which there is no war. Let's go around the room and each of us begin a sentence, I see an America in which, so that we can conceptualize, just as we're told so often, imagine the world you want. Imagine the life you want. Imagine the career you want. Let's imagine the America we want. So, Gary, describe the America that you
So I want to see an America where happiness is nearby, and consideration, peace, respect, safety, no fear, and everyone. Just a considerate humanity in our country and around the world.
Wow. I mean, just even to imagine that, you know? Okay. The thing is, people go for that. We'll go for it all, then we will lose all. And that's too much fun. Like our country, we're either going to go for it all, or we vote against Donald Trump again. Who did this one? I that struck and inspired and kept up with that. So, of the struggle, there's so many things that people don't have that they need to have because they would provide that would be able to be inspired, bring.
I envision an America where housing is a right, is a human right, where healthcare is a human right. And I envision America that is less angry, less vitriolic, but I envision that vision through allowing Americans to live a life that is affordable, that is financially secure. And the way to get America to be less angry is to get them to catch their breath and be comfortable financially. So I envision a president who knows exactly how to do that. Most Americans do.
It just takes a toll on your immune system.
Yeah.
And the stress. It's the stress, it's just do not take your back. That's the beauty of America. What is the main thing?
A mile.
Right? Libertarian, we've got to come out of these silos. These silos are really, this is really great. This is really great. America, certain countries, respect for sexuality, color, religion, age, are not labeled, right? Are very hard. It is really because then we complain about the division, but we create the division every time we speak from a place of law on exist. Hardly. This is my religion, this is my sex, this is my sexuality. That's an aspect, and it's important, but there's something bigger for humanity. Everything in place. You know, I had a dream many years ago. And I was walking in with somebody who, it must have been like a restaurant. It was a huge round room. And in the middle of the room, there was a big fountain. And everything in the room was either white, gold, turquoise, or emerald green. And it was like a restaurant in that everybody was sitting at a booth. But the booths were shaped like swans. And when I walked in, everybody stopped their conversations and laughed. But I knew it wasn't because it was me, it was because the human beings were. And I thought, wow, this is it's like everybody was so happy in the room. Everybody was so happy. It was so beautiful. And then a human being walked in. Human being? Hi. And a human being walked in. I not a comparison, but you mentioned that you're Buddhist. It's kind of amazing. I am really meditative mindfulness speaking, and I actually have to write a paper that I have to present at 10 or 15 minutes talk tonight at 8 o'clock, and I didn't realize it so about midnight tonight. So anyway, I went. There is a Buddhist center in Newark. I didn't know it was there until 3 or 4 years ago. And New Year's Day was the first time I ever went there. And that's the way I was treated. When I walked in to the center, hi, I know. It was like, I can't wait to go back. You know, where else you see that? You see that in Vegas. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it was. You don't have the weight of the world on their shoulders. Yeah. You know? Well, the funniest part, just sort of as an aside, people were talking about one woman had come 3 hours, someone else had come like an hour and a half. So, how far did you come? A mile. It's a little. Where do you live now? I could walk there. I see people. I was told when they have their week-long silent retreats, and they'll send people out for walks. I see them come up to the four corners that I live at and turn around and go back. And they said, yeah, they've come from the center.
neighborhood.
And I had no idea. It was a Facebook post. Someone was saying, what are all those sirens? You know, we joke about it. It's the cats of Newmarket. It's the noises, you know, someone setting off fireworks. Everyone's got a comment on it. And this time it was sirens. And they said, it's down at the end of Shady Lane. It's at the Buddhist Center. And the conversation immediately pivoted to, there's a Buddhist Center in town.
Side, number one, that's the high side of Facebook, but also
Yes.
maybe it's a reminder to all of us to get busy on social media over the next 7 days.
Mhm.
Tell your
Right.
friends, tell their friends, tell their.
That's what we have to
Dr.
do.
Webb.
Yeah. Oh, I've changed my, yeah.
Give them the, flyer, send them to the, for those of you